everyone for being on this webinar to talk about the community of practice. And here's a brief agenda for today. It should only take about 45 minutes to go through a lot of this, but and we really concentrate on the search feature and adding resources generally, and adding resources to a particular webinar that someone may be giving. So we're going to give examples of all of these things. We already have, everyone basically has an idea of what the community of practice is, but it's really designed as a portal for resources, to have discussions, to view webinars, and even to develop webinars that you may want to give. So that's kind of the overall purpose, and it's open to anyone, although we do review people that sign up, but it's really open to anyone, and really encourage districts to use it with their teachers as a meeting place in some cases. So we'll talk about all of that. We're going to do another webinar in early next month, and we're going to try to do one every month until people really get comfortable with using it. So go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. Why don't we get started? And I want to introduce Diane, who is our programmer. She's a little under the weather today, so we're not going to make her talk too much. But Diane is going to, assist us in this process while I click on stuff, and she'll kind of explain. So we're going to limit, though, so that she can get some rest and get some tea and honey. And maybe some whiskey in that, too. That might help. Okay, Diane, Diane, I always butcher your last name, so could you pronounce your last name for everyone?
It's Sejual. I'm Diane Sejual, and I work with Charles River Web, and I have been rebuilding the site for you. This is like the launch 2 of the community of practice, and so I've worked with Cesar and a few of you to figure out what the needs are for the community. And so we try to build this functionality in, and when we demonstrate it today, we like to get some feedback from people about, what they like, what could be improved. So we're really open to here, this is being built for the teachers, so we want to make sure that we're giving them the tools they want. And on the dashboard, you can see on his dashboard, if you scroll down a little bit, there's a suggestion box. And so there's a place when you do log into the system to, put some feedback in and send it to us to let, us know about, what's working or what you'd like to see as it grows. So as you can see, Cesar's logged in, and he has, as soon as you log in, you come to the member dashboard. For new time people, if you haven't logged in before, there is a Start the Tour button that will kind of give you an overview of the member dashboard. So you can just sort of step through it, and it gives you a little bit of information where to find things and how to navigate and what the blocks are on the page. And so you can step through that just to see. We missed that one. And then these are the we just in the suggestion boxes there to to put some information in. So there are if you slow down and take that tour a little bit, there you'll see there's 2 levels of navigation at the top of the page. We have the the colorful button navigation, and then the tab-like navigation beneath it. Everything that's up in the administrators are going to see more. I think this one's geared just for administrators, this one, and Cesar's logged in as an admin, and he sees the community button too. Admins will be able to, if you click on that, why don't you go to the yellow button where this the community and show the options. So admins have a bunch of different responsibilities. There's, administration of members, of content, of comments, of web form submissions, and then people who are ask the expert questions. Some people who are the experts will, answer them. So there's a queue of unanswered questions that, you would be assigned if you went there. So, and I think we talked a little bit about the admin functions and sort of the roles the last time I met with you guys. So today,
and Chris, you'll have admin access too, so you'll be able to do all of these things that we're talking about today and more. But we're not going to go through all the details, but you'll have admin access.
All right, thanks.
So if you're logged in, you don't actually, because actually I can see that we haven't assigned that role to him yet.
Right.
And that's something you could do as an admin, you know. So you don't see that button. That's why I wanted, you know, him to kind of show you that one. But you can see there's the log out button. If you click on the user, that gets you back to your user profile, and then the edit screens for, you know, uploading a picture if you want to share, and a little bit about yourself. People can, any content that you post on the website, people will, you know, see that you were the contributor of the content, and they can always click on your username to come see, you know, a little bit more about you. So, you know, we would like people to sort of like make it descriptive, like what your interests are. So people in the extended community, you know, if they wanted to connect with you or ask you questions or follow up, you could, you know, build that network that way as well. So, you know, we encourage people to, you know, put information that, you know, that you wouldn't want to professionally share. You know, the green button at the top will always get you back to the dashboard, as will, you know, clicking on the Jobs for the Future icon logo in the upper left-hand corner. The plus white is to add, and your options are you can add webinars, events. Actually, you're logged in as an admin right now, so you see more. If you're an admin, you can add not just resources, but resource categories. You can add question categories because everything's categorized. And if you manage the forums, you can add forum topics and forum containers. So, you know, there's a lot to do. Not everyone has the same responsibilities on the site, so depending on what your role is, you may see more or less of the selections from this drop-down menu.
Yeah, I see Elizabeth has joined us too. Hi, Elizabeth. You'll also have admin access. And so what Diane just talked about in terms of the resources, we're going to go over this in a minute, but in the categories, so if it's not there, you guys have an opportunity to put that there yourself without trying to get approval so that we can expand our resource category and information under them.
Yeah,
Sorry, Diane, go ahead.
Actually, why don't we start by, you know, just clicking on the resource category. And that way people can start understanding, like, you know, how we're already tagging content. And this is an admin screen. You know, you can add a term by clicking on the button, and you can also see what has been entered. These can also be those little up and down arrows. You can make them subsets. So, like, you know, if we wanted to slide, if you can slide college access and success over to the right a little bit, you use the icon to the left of where it says college. That little moving, but yeah. See, now it's under. Right. Now it'll be a subset. Right. So you add structure to this as well, and how you categorize your content is going to make it. It's going to help people find content, and as your library grows, you know, you want to make sure we have got good access points for people to get the information that they want. So, you'll be able to. Yes.
So since Caesar has administrative rights, I will, Elizabeth will. I'm thinking, and you all can push me on my thinking on this, but I think it would probably, in this organization of the potential topics, I'd rather us have like one type of organization that Caesar, you know, you can sort of set up in terms of what falls under which categories, as opposed to all of us playing with it and moving things around differently. I just think that'll create more confusion. So, you know, I'd love to hear what Elizabeth thinks about it, but I would be more comfortable with, if we look at all the topic headings, and if we think that some are sort of subsets of other, let's just create one outline of that and then have it set and not play with it. Elizabeth, I don't know if you understand what we're doing right now. I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I think I understand. Yeah, no, I think it makes sense to me to have kind of an overall structure, and maybe there's some way to add some others if we need to, but yeah.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Chris, by the way. And then, you know, and we'll figure out how to send out a communication to people concerning that. you know, when someone wants to add categories or make subsets, they could just send it directly to me.
Okay, I'm looking at the site right now, and I was trying to give Chris admin access, but the options that I have are community member, blogger, forum moderator, community expert, and then there's a JFF admin, which is not, so I can't assign him that.
Well, we'll figure that out after we do
okay.
this. That won't be a big deal. Thanks.
So we'll leave it as it is right now.
Yeah.
Right.
Not
okay, great.
Means either, so that's fine.
Okay, Diane. Good. Good so far.
Okay, so yeah, I mean that's what we've Chris, you've gotten brought up something we've talked about in the past, because it hasn't gotten a lot of use right now, and so I think that you're sort of at that at that stage in the community where you do need to figure out how you're going to be tagging that content. So as people, I think this is going to probably have some play in it for a little while before it becomes hard and fast set, because people are going to interact with it different ways, and the place where people can make that suggestions, and I think it's in part of the suggestion box too. Like if you want to add a category, I think there's an option for that. Suggest a category. So that people are always trying to go through that suggestion box to make suggestions and funnel in the request that way. I think it'll be good for people just to do that as well on a regular basis. So
yeah, I think that's a perfect place to put those kind of suggestions too in terms of categories. You're absolutely right, because we know we didn't capture all the categories.
Yeah.
And so we want to be as efficient as possible in this, and a lot of them were done even before I started doing this. So I think, we just need to take another look at it. I agree.
And if you guys want, because right now all JFF admins, that role can, modify the taxonomies. So, if that needs to be, a new role, that can be added, and we can just make that, a specific role, and the person that's assigned that role can then do that. And that's what we had talked about before, too, was, there's a lot going on here, and there, you have to admin content, and once people make comments and the forum starts getting used, there's a lot to actually admin. So defining those roles, who's going to take what piece of it, I think that's the best way to handle it. So yeah, Chris, I completely agree with you. Figuring out, even within the RAT, who's taking on what responsibilities of adminning the site. And it sounds like Sandra, sounds like she's doing a lot of the adminning of the people, of the members, so and she's familiar with that interface. So I think that, as you guys start working together and, the ball gets rolling on it, people feel comfortable, I think what you'll see is people will naturally gravitate to, what their interests are and volunteer. That's in my experience. So, but I agree, you don't want people just going in there and changing it after you've worked on it.
Right.
And then being what happened.
Yeah, I noticed that Catherine Pena has the ability to do everything. So in other words, all the categories are clicked on for her.
Mm-hmm.
And other folks to have that ability. Even
I think Catherine, and it's one in Brownsville and one in PSJA too.
Exactly.
Yeah, we did that on purpose. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So you guys can think about that and let me know if it needs to be more restricted.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so yeah, maybe we should just go across now and go through resources, Ask the Next Big Forum, webinars, and calendar to just look at those higher level pages.
Mm-hmm.
So on the webinar or on the resources page, this is basically a listing of the resources and sort of the order that they were added. And you can see the resource categories, again, you can then filter on the categories in the filter box in the, in the sidebar at the top of the page. So like if you want to just click on under resource categories coaching, just click on the term, and it'll, automatically just filter these results. And so you can just sort of browse through the catalog for what you have. But if you were wanting to do, like, more than that and, like, search on some terms, you can use the search box for this. So this is more for like, browsing and filtering by categories. But if you wanted to get more specific about what you were looking for, the whole site and all the PDFs have been indexed. So as soon as you start typing something, it's going to put you someplace in the index and start auto-populating that field for you, and you can select one of the options that came down. And then, you can then, when you get to the search page of the results, in the sidebar, there's even, more ways to filter and sort content to find what you're looking for.
Diane, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is there a way, I'm looking at, obviously, what you're doing here. I guess my question is, these resources could all be different formats. Some could be webinars, some could be PowerPoints, some could be articles and all that. Is there a way in the title to distinguish or tag what it is? Am I making myself clear?
It does. I mean, in the filter page, like right next to where your cursor is, Cesar, it says filter by content type, and you can see there's like resource webinar page. I think that, we didn't put it in there because it was part of the filter criteria, but I think that, I guess we could put a marker in there for the content type.
Well, I guess, and we can ask people if they think it's important. Sometimes I'm just looking for a slide deck or something like that, and I don't want a video or I don't want a webinar because that's not what I'm looking for. So I don't know if.
And I think that that's where you go into, because we can add more taxonomies, you know what I mean? Like if you're looking specifically for a slide deck, because when people upload resources, I mean, it could be a PDF, it could be this, it could be that.
Right.
I don't, in terms of like if it's a PDF or a doc file, I don't know as a, off just, that's not been programmed to know. But what we could do is that's the way you could tag it. Like you could tag it with what type of resource type is it. And we do have a term for video. And so you can see that there's, I know that there's more than one video in this resource. I also know that because some of this content is carried forward from phase one, and this is something we were hoping people were going to be able to have time for over the holiday or the holiday break, was to be able to come in here and use and give some feedback about how we could be tagging it to find it. That's great feedback. And maybe if you open up DPS coaching summary webinar slides, I think well, it's in the results right next to your.
Oh, okay. Here we go. Right. Duh.
This is an older resource. Let's just see if it's actually a slide deck or, I don't know what it is.
It's not even there. It doesn't exist, so I need to take that off.
There's some old stuff that we didn't necessarily carry.
But to Chris's point, while we're creating a resource, we can just tag it then. That'll be one of the options that we tag, and we could have a list, whether it's webinar, have a checkoff box, for the, so I think that's pretty simple to do. I like the idea too, so.
And maybe that's a separate tag from the actual, it's not the same taxonomy that that you saw before where it was a resource category.
Right.
A resource type, and then we could have a list of types,
Right, resource type. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yes, exactly.
So we'll create.
I made a note. So.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
So yeah, we'll do that, and that's really what's coming up for us now. As you interact with it, I know you're going to have ideas. I know everyone's going to have ideas about oh, this would be cool, and that's exactly why we put the suggestion box there.
Right. So, exactly.
As you go and as you're working with it, feel free to use it. We really do want to hear from the people who are using it. So that was resources and a little bit of search. Do you just want to quickly go over? Just click on the Ask an Expert page. I mean, a lot of these things don't have content yet, or aren't really being used, but these functionalities are there. Maybe what we should do is go from resources, and then why don't you click on calendar? So this is another way to just see what's on the calendar. And I know that Cesar has put a lot of webinars on over the last couple of days, but there is a calendar view that you can, did you click on that? Caesar?
Yep, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And so the other thing, and we're going to send out a newsletter. Once I get all of these in, I have about 4 more to put in. But if anyone who clicks right here, it'll take them right to registration for this particular webinar. And so then they'll be put on a list. So all the people that are giving webinars, I'll be able to send them a registration list. And we also capture their email when they do it. So, and then you'll also have the invitation that you can send out, Elizabeth. That's what we were discussing with Chris earlier. So you'll have a resource list, a name list, so that you want to contact people individually or after the webinar, you'll have that opportunity to do that.
Can I ask a random webinar question? Is there any capability of polling people?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes, you can. And so we can, and in fact, perhaps, and Sandra, why don't we should try to get Ishiru to do a quick piece for us on that. So why don't you make a note, Ishiru or Dave?
Okay.
That would be great. Yes, Elizabeth, and it also puts it in different kind of formats too, I think. But we've used it a lot, so.
Nice.
So this is just to follow up on what Diane was talking about. So what we're doing, this is a live webinar. This really exists, right? This is a webinar that we created today, actually. And so clicking on it and getting registration. And the other thing that you want to go over this now, Diane. So anyone, especially admins, if I put the webinar on, you can add resources to the webinar for your participants to use. So a lot of people want to add, please review this before the webinar. So we can put all of that in here, and that's going to be kind of the next step. We go through. Diane, do you want to go through that now?
Yeah, this is okay. So he put this in yesterday, and so you can put something in, and then you can go back and edit it. And now he's thought about it a little bit. He's like, oh, there's a few resources that I'd like to use, and so we don't want to just put a link or upload a file, but we actually want to put it into our resource category so it's there in the future. So. Right here where it says resource reference, and this is to reference the actual, here scroll up a little bit more, see that, yeah, resource reference. There's an auto-populate list right there. So if there was actually, if the resource that you already know of is actually already in the library, what you can do is start in that, type in the field the name of it. So even if you're part of it, it's going to start showing you the ones that are already there. So you can select it if it's already there. Yeah, and why don't you just select one that's existing, and then if you know that you have a new one, additionally, you can actually add another one as well. So then, in this case, he's going to click on the new content button, and it's going to just click you over to, creating a resource. And this is exactly the same as it would be if you just selected it from the white plus drop-down menu, create a resource. So he's going to, make a resource and upload something that he wants to share. And when you upload this, what's important is to upload documents that do not have spaces in the file names. Because if they have spaces in the file names, like I was trying to explain earlier, when we were using the search bar and we started typing in a term to the search bar, and then it dropped down a list of indexed terms. The solo searcher can't index PDFs if the files names have spaces in them. So it's important never to put spaces in your file names, and that way the content within your document that you're uploading can be indexed as well. Because sometimes if you don't put a more complete description of your resource, then someone may not know what's actually, the resource is about. But that has no spaces in the file name, does it, or does it not?
Yeah, it does. Actually, the other one wouldn't load up. I don't know if you guys are watching me, because it has spaces in it. This one, actually, at the beginning, doesn't have any spaces in it.
Well, this is a PDF though. That's not a resource, right? That's
What's the article?
right. But don't you want to add that as a? Oh, you're in the resource. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm in the resource, right? Create a resource. Yeah.
I didn't see you put the description in.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's coaching.
Yeah, this is coaching, but it's teacher to teacher. That's the name of this particular piece. Teachers, no, the teacher to teacher, the heart, I won't put that part, but it's teacher to teacher.
Okay.
That's the name of the piece, right.
And so then
the other thing on the published date is the date that we did it, right, that we actually uploaded the resource, correct, Diane?
No, because the system captures that date because it knows what the date is when you're doing it. The published date is the published date of the resource that you're sharing. So if this was
okay, cool.
From like August 2014, then you'd want to put in, you know, if you didn't have the actual day, you just would put August 1st, you know?
Okay, I see, right, because it wouldn't know unless we did it, right?
Right. And so,
okay,
you know,
cool.
So put it in the description for us, and it has to be, you know, a good description, because when people come to look for content on your site, if you don't put a good description, then no one knows what it's about.
Right, and I haven't read this, so I can't put a description right now, you guys, so, but I will.
Okay. Well, it may not even let you save it if you don't put something in, because, you know, you need to have something there, because otherwise it's just a file without any information. So I think I'm sort of forcing people to, you know, like, why are you sharing this information? What did you use it for? You know, you can put anything about, you know, what it's about, but also, you know, you can also say how you used it, because the other thing you can do with resources is allow people to comment on them. You don't need to. That's, you know, completely optional. You might not have the bandwidth to, like, deal with comments on stuff that you've shared. But if you were a teacher and you were working with other teachers and you were using it more of a discussion piece around it, you have the option to, and he's leaving you can see in these settings. If you why don't you scroll up so we see left footer. No, go to the bottom where you were there. I want to show the different options, see, like the publishing options.
Oh, right. Here we go. Right. This is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then in the comment settings, too, he has an option for turning those on and off. You know, and right now he has them open, but if you wanted them to be closed, you just click on where it says closed.
And that just means that people can comment on the piece.
Right. So let's leave yours open, and then when you see it, we'll go back at it. And it is published. So why don't we just click Saved?
Yeah, so Diane, just talk for a moment that nothing happens unless it's published, because I did this the other day, and it, you know, wondered where it was, right? But if you don't publish it, it doesn't appear. So this is really important.
So that's like,
and then you have to say,
did you select a resource category?
Oh, no, I didn't. This is the other part we have to do. Right.
Right. You have to categorize.
Coaching. Right.
Right. There you go. And, you know, if you didn't fill out the right fields, it would say, hey, you got to, you know, add a field. So no, he just added that resource, and so now there's 2 resources there. But he's in the middle of doing this webinar, right? That's what he was really doing, was just coming in to add these resources to the webinar he was going to do. So now he has to scroll all the way down and save it, because he's done his task, but he must save it. And then the layout changes.
It'll appear.
It has, like, tips for coaching new teachers and teacher-to-teacher. And so if you click on those resources, what happens is you click on the teacher-to-teacher one. Oh, that's fine.
Okay, let me go back. Oh, we'll do this one. Okay.
This is an old one from 2013.
Right. Let's see what happened to it. It didn't come up. Let's go back.
Future back.
I think it did come up, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it was. Yeah. So there you go.
It's up at the top. Right. It's here.
Okay. So now go back to use your back button and just go back one. Okay, so now click on the teacher-to-teacher one, because this is the resource he put the comments on. So you can see the last one didn't have a space for comments, but if you scroll down on this one, you know, there's an area for comments. So and there's also a rating comment. So, like, you know, there's a rating at the top of it where you can, you know, give it what you think. And, you know, in this whole area right here, you know, in the resources, like sometimes you can upload a video, so a video would appear over to the right. Also, it feels like your screen is moving down, down, down.
I'm moving it. I'm moving it. You're getting seasick, right?
So, you know, that's a way that, you know, you can, you know, so you're not just like, you know, if you want to put up a file, if you want to refer to something, you know, just make it a resource. And then you can set the settings as as you want, you know, whether it wants to have a comment or not. And then you can attach these resources to the webinars. So if, you know, a slide deck, rather than just like sharing your slides, you'd add it as a resource. And that way someone could, you know, search for that slide deck. And especially if we're tagging them with slide decks, sometimes you just really only want to see slide decks that had to do with algebra, that had to do with 8th grade, you know, whatever that is, you know, whatever your search terms are. So the better we get at categorizing content, the easier it will be to find it. And the better we get at, like, you know, rating our content, like this is quality, oh, this one not so good, you know, like give feedback on what they're contributing, we'll figure out what's working, you know, what resources are sort of like the cream of the crop, and, like, you know, what we should be leveraging in our practice. So
yeah, additionally, just to add to that, Diane, the other part of that is we can also put that in the marketing of the webinar, you know, that people will receive materials. It's just the added thing to coax people into, you know, signing up for our webinar.
Right.
Okay, go for it, Diane.
Okay, so that's, you know, you just demonstrated, you know, pretty much, you know, how to attach the resources to the webinars. And in the same exercise, you actually added a webinar. The other way to access those are, you know, why don't you just show in the drop down of the plus button. You know, if he clicks on, just scroll down to resource and click on that. I want to add a resource. We saw adding resource categories, and see it's the same exact, you know, form. And so, you know, if you just needed to add, or you know, sometimes if you just wanted, you could add all your resources first and then create your webinar. And as soon as you started typing in the title name from the, you know, for reference resources, they would populate, you would just select it. So, you know, you can access it in multiple ways. You know, I just wanted it to, you know, be easy for people to use on the fly, no matter how so they didn't have to just go and add a resource and then create their webinar. They can just do it all in one session, you know, if that's what they're going to do. And if not, you can just come back and, like he demonstrated today, add them the next day. And then you can also change the settings on a resource to have comments, and maybe you don't only want the comments there for, like, you know, 2-week period, and then you could take them off. So, you know, you have a lot of flexibility of how you can use these tools as an educator, you know, and then he can just, you know, set it to closed.
And publish. Okay. Any questions?
No. Good.
Good.
Okay, great. Great.
But there are no restrictions on what you can post as far as, like, copyrights and stuff, right?
You know, I really never got a clear answer on that. I think, you know, especially all of the pieces, if you look at the pieces that I just added, all of them were all of them were from the web articles and on presentations. So I did a whole thing on doing webinar presentations and PowerPoint presentations. So I put about 5 pieces in here. And I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. We should probably do some research on it. But.
And say that, you know, there's fair use for education. You know what I mean? You're not claiming that this is yours, what you're doing it for education. You know, and that's another reason why, like, you know, if you, in those description fields where you're actually, like, you know, saying something about it and not just copying and pasting a blurb from their article, I think it's more important to, like, not be copying and pasting, but putting your description of the resource in there, because that's your content and this is just something that you're adding in. You know, but if any materials are copyrighted, you know, that you've gotten from some other workshop or something, certainly, you know, the rule would not be not to add that unless you had permission.
Right.
So, you know, there's a fine line, and I think for what a lot of community practices do, I mean, you know, you have to adminning components, and then there's always the, you know, not having spaces in your file names. But the other thing is, too, you need to kind of have some rules about, like, you know, sometimes you need to spell all this stuff out. So as these questions come up, I think what you guys need to do is basically, you know, craft, like, you know, some guidelines for uploading resources. And
right.
on this page, you could have like a little sidebar to the right with like some guidelines, you know, so that they were right there. Because this goes full width, this doesn't need to go full width, you know, this form. But in the areas to the right, we could have some, you know, guidelining, you know, block that had like best practices. So they had little reminders about, you know, why we're asking them to do certain things and the ways that we're asking them to do it, why it matters.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's another note to put down. And Elizabeth, if you have some additional understanding of that or documents that discuss that, that would be helpful to share.
I don't think I really do. I know that at one point I personally got in trouble for putting up a slide deck where I'd taken a picture off the web and used it just to kind of enhance what I was presenting. So I'm just got a little more sensitive about it than I
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, great.
Well, I mean, the other thing about this, though, you know, the resources themselves are only shared with community members. You know, so if you were to log out and look at the resources, what happens is, you know, all you see is the, you know, the description, the published date, you know, who contributed it, but the section that actually has the resources, you have to be logged in to see them. So, you know, this is also a closed community in that way. So people, the external world doesn't see it. So if you had like a PowerPoint with a, you know, an image on the web, from the web, like that one I wouldn't be too concerned about, you know. You know, but if it was slides that, you know, definitely was made by somebody else that, you know, had a copyright on them, I wouldn't use it. So that's the other thing too. I mean, none of the content that your members are contributing actually is accessible to people who are not logged in. So that's something else to keep in mind.
Great. Okay, so let's, are there any questions on the resources? Actually, this resource piece, just to reemphasize this, can really be a powerful piece. One of the things I'm trying to get Denver to do, they're doing a presentation in a few weeks, a webinar, and they're actually going to start posting resources so that they can use it with and have their teachers go to that site, you know, to retrieve the resource. So you guys can think of ways to utilize the resource piece can be extremely powerful.
Yeah, I really like that.
Good.
Well, Ask the Expert, I just want to visit before I go there, but are there any questions on the resources, uploading resources? And we really recommend that you guys just play with it to find out, you know, if there's a challenge or if you have questions. You know, you could send it to us, but yeah, just play around with it. One of the things we're going to come out with this soon is this Ask the Expert. We're going to revisit because March is early college month. You know, I don't know what celebrations are occurring. I think a couple of Knowledge Works or somebody's doing something, maybe a few other people, but one of the things I wanted to try to do, and you guys can think about it, is maybe have a topic a week, you know, for somebody to discuss, you know, and people can ask that person questions. We'll do a mailing, you know, to let people know that they have opportunity to ask questions about these 3 topics during these 3 or 4 weeks, you know, but I haven't thought it out completely, but we need to think of topics that would intrigue people clearly. You know, but if you guys would give that some thought and give me your feedback on that, I'd really appreciate it. Because I think this can be powerful. It's not a blog. It's really, and it's not live. You know, to ask a person a question and they respond to it. But we would do it within a certain time frame, so that person wouldn't be on the hook for, you know, constantly looking out online to find out who's asking the question.
And in the Ask an Expert, if you click on it and go through, again, here too, you can ask a question and, you know, reference a resource. So
yeah, this is a topic I just put up just as an example. And this is an article probably. I don't know. I did this so long ago, I don't remember.
Yeah, just click on what is project-based learning. And it,
right, here we go. And then I went to, yeah, I did this. And I just had the site, Edutopia does a lot of great stuff, you know, real simple, practical kind of things on a whole lot of areas, and this is just one of many. But they all have really good pieces, especially around project-based learning, that they take best practices from, you know, different locations, schools, and districts in the country. A really good piece. Okay.
And so, you know, people can come in and ask their question. You know, there's a question field, and there's like a, you know, if there's, they can ask a short question. I think that's what Cesar did, and his question is just, you know, what is project-based learning? If someone had like a more detailed, more information to add to it, they could, you know, expand upon their short question and, you know, the detailed question, and they can upload a resource or you know, or reference resources that are already in the library. And once they submit that, what happens, if you jump back to the, actually, why don't you put in a question, Cesar, so people can see what happens when somebody does. So just put in the top field, just put in a question.
Oh, the question, right.
So you can see the little flyout comes out and gives some help, question to be answered.
You guys with more experience with this, do people actually come and post questions on websites for these kind of ask an expert kind of things?
Well, you know, if you tell them to. So that's generally people don't troll to go to find them, but you really have to tell them, and that's why I said, you know, we really have to send out something and say, okay, you know, this person is going to be on and talk about this topic. Do you have any questions? Really have to market it. I think that's the best way to try to get people to come to it. But left up on their own, I don't think they would necessarily just come to the website to ask the question.
Yeah,
so the marketing is like for these 3 hours, that person will be there to answer questions.
Yeah, we haven't really thought it out yet. Go ahead, Diane.
Well, I think that's really asynchronous. You know, like I don't think that the expert will. I don't even know if an expert wants on the spot to, you know, answer questions like that. Maybe, and if that's the case, maybe it's more of like an open forum. You know, but I think that for something like, you can see that there's no content here. So like, as there's more content and people are coming in and finding value in it, like once you guys have to get over the hurdle of usage. And I think that a really good strategy is, like, you know, having these webinars that people can come on to and finding times that work for other people, and also the recording of them so that they're available. Like, people are busy, you know, it's like it's a Friday and they have this or that and there's snowstorms, and so we want to, like, make it so that people can access these things asynchronously. It could definitely be organized around, you know, if someone wanted to make themselves available, but maybe they need more time to digest and ask an expert, you know, response. So
yeah, that was our original kind of concept, but still have it within a time frame, perhaps a week, and within 24 hours, the person will respond, some type of protocol, but that person wouldn't have to be available, you know, from 3 to 4 or something, you know, in order to respond.
Right. So, like, why don't you select on the Save button so we can see what happens? So, you know, he saves he asks the questions and submits the question, and it says, great, you know, your question has been answered. And that was his question. So now if he clicks back to the actual dashboard, because he is a JFF admin, he can actually answer the questions. And so what will happen is you see this new block just popped up that says for the experts. And so that's the question. So as you log in and you see that their questions are there as an admin, you can answer them. We can also set up, email alerts so that whoever is the assigned expert can be notified by email. So if he clicks on this question, he can go through and, he could answer his own question, but see that the person who's answering them, he'll scroll down beneath the question, and then, he gets to tag it with a category,
Right.
Make it early college design because we have one right now for college. So he's going to tag it, and then you can add more to the question categories as well. And then what you do is you put in the actual question answer. So put in an answer. We don't want any comments on Ask an Expert.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You wouldn't. What questions did I ask in the first place? How do you prepare teachers?
So he can come in and answer this, and then the next time, we load up the page, there'll be, another question under the category Early College Design. So, and if these are, as long as these are, of value to people, and the value has to really come into, both through the question, it has to be something that you're interested in. And it also has to be that the answer has to be, detailed enough or nuanced enough so that it, so people see value. If people are just, so now go back over to the Ask an Expert page.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do, see what I haven't done this, actually, this whole part. Okay, so.
And, and that, you can expand all. As soon as you click on the title, it'll pop down.
Oh, got it.
If there were 12 under college school partnerships, so you can organize these. Right now, the question and answer isn't, you can order them which ones come first.
Right. Oh, cool.
My eyes were, but if you wanted early college design to display above college school partnerships, that's what the order field is about.
Right.
Not sure what you're doing.
Or it didn't do it. It should have done it. No problem.
Anyhow, so whether or not you're used, this is part of something that was part of the original Community Practice 1, and what they had was Ask an Expert was part of the forum, but that functionality was separate, so we turned it into this format where it was really ask a question and get a response rather than without any comments. People can comment on resources, people can comment on webinars, and if people want to discuss something, then they can go to the forums. And I feel like, so there's different avenues to have different types of conversations. If Ask an Expert isn't found of value in the end, that we can remove that. But right now we're just trying to figure out what does appeal to the community and what works for teachers. So yeah, why don't we load up the forum page?
Okay.
And then these are the this is all very legacy stuff. These are the containers. When you, as an admin, you'll see the container for add a container or add a topic. Containers are like general discussion. Someone has added a new forum container, and then these are the actual topics within that. And you can see that people put up questions, but there hasn't been any replies. So it's people are going to have to, if people want to use it, it's here. How teachers in your community decide to use it as groups, there's certainly tools here that could, help people network and share information. It's how, whether or not they're going to use it, that's a separate category. And, like you can see, last by Michael Webb, by Caesar, you can click on that and you can go to their profile so you can see who those people are.
Right.
Mike, there was Michael.
There's Mike. Yep.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
So does anyone else have any questions or any feedback?
Okay, that means you did a really great workshop. That's what that means.
Thank you.
But we're coming to the, we wanted to kind of, although we said 4 to 5:30, we really wanted to keep it to like an hour or so.
And
go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just going to say I appreciate that because I was going to have to get off now anyway, but so I appreciate the conciseness. I think as is with most of these tools, we just need to play around with it and then questions will arise.
Definitely, definitely. So you'll see more communications from me too, you guys, just on different things that are posted, just so that people can start getting used to it. So I think it's really good for our districts, so we have to figure out a way for them to take advantage of it without it being onerous. Okay, well, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and have a great weekend. Diane, do you have any few last words, or Sandra?
No, I'm good.
No?
And, I liked all the ideas that everyone, gave, and I'm really hoping that, as you play, use the suggestion box so that we can get that feedback and, make it work for the community.
Yeah. And in fact, we've had feedback in the beginning, and Diane was actually integrated much of that feedback into what you see now. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and join our webinar next week. Educate Texas is going to be doing a webinar at 4 o'clock Eastern Time. It's going to be excellent, and hopefully you can join us. A day in the life of an instructional coach. That's what it's about. Okay, everyone. Take care. Thanks for joining us.
Happy weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.